It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
Well, Julie, today I get to interview you. I'm so excited because I learned so much. You have such a rich history in agriculture.
Thank you.
And farming and pistachio farms, and it's just fun to learn from you.
Well, bless you, and I feel the same way about you. So we're our mutual admiration party, right?
Well, you're our farmin' darling, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to rely on you for information today. And,
Well, thank you.
And it's going to be a fun day because we get to talk about one of my favorite seasons.
Oh, yay.
Fall.
Yes, I love this season as well.
And although in Arizona, fall is not quite the same as fall in other seasons, with fall, we're seeing a change in crops and a change in fruits and vegetables that we can
Yes.
get. And I love some of the fall produce. So tell us a little bit about what is in season as we go into fall.
Well, there's a lot. Overall, throughout the year, 200 plus crops can be grown in Arizona. Now, we're not growing 200 crops right exclusively in the fall, but to your question, even before I get into that, I do want to direct listeners, viewers, to fillyourplate.org because we actually have seasonal charts. And also, along with those seasonal charts, it literally lists every month of what's growing in that particular month. So, if you're in November, you can pop that up and look at it. So that's the first thing I want to mention. And then if anyone ever has any questions about the seasonal produce that we grow, you can also go to Extension. Every county has an extension, and Cooperative Extension is tied into the Land Grant University, which is the University of Arizona. So that's another way to discover all of the myriad of vegetables, fruits, and everything that we grow. But to answer your question specifically, all the leafy greens, chilies, sweet corn up north, even though sweet corn in the valley has a short season, you literally can still get sweet corn like at Mortimer Farms, some of the other places, because we have these microclimates in Arizona that most people don't think about.
It's amazing.
So the sweet corn season, as long as you go up north, is stretched out a little bit. Apples, pumpkins, who doesn't like pumpkins? Winter squash, broccoli, cabbage, lettuce of every imaginable kind is being grown, especially in Yuma, the winter lettuce bowl of the nation. A variety of onions, obviously our root vegetables and more. And I have to say this, year round, we're always going to have dairy and beef. So, and while it's not
Always in season.
it's always in season. While, quote unquote, it's not a crop, we have to realize that its availability is going to be here for us in the fall, just as it is going to be in the winter, in the spring, and the summer. So I had to say that, give props to our beef producers, our dairy farmers. And it's an abundance and a bounty of crops in the fall.
Now, are you talking all of those crops that you mentioned are Arizona crops?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it's good to go to fillyourplate.org, because we show those seasonal charts, and then we also break it out each month so you can see what's going on. So really, even though from Yuma, you might not be getting the leafy greens in the grocery stores right now, you're definitely going to be getting them or having access to these Yuma vegetables by mid-November, all the way into the first part of April. So even though our leafy greens oftentimes are definitely identified as some of our fall crops, it has a long window of production.
So if you're a listener here in Arizona, they can go to the Arizona Farm Bureau site. If
Right.
they're in another state, they could go to their Farm Bureau there to get a similar...
Possibly,
list.
but I don't think every Farm Bureau, and I can be corrected by all my buddies in Farm Bureau land that listen to this, but not every Farm Bureau state has a, consumer-facing site like fillyourplate.org. It's and it's geared specifically for that. So you can check out the seasonal vegetables. We have a regular blog. Our podcast is on there now, stuff like that. And it's because the Farm Bureau family covers all the seasons, all the crops, all the livestock. I just felt obligated back in 2007 to make sure we provided something for our Arizona families so that they could see the seasonality. We're growing 365 days out of the year. Something is being planted and harvested 12 months out of the year in Arizona. The Midwest can't claim that in the dead of winter. Certainly North and South Dakota think of those, unless they have a hydroponics or indoor agriculture like a greenhouse. But we're constantly growing, and we're constantly growing on a large scale, considering we're a desert state. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
So economically, for our consumers and our listeners, is it more economical for them to purchase in season?
So yes, and one of the reasons, it's the whole Economics 101, supply and demand. So there's going to be more supply of those fruits and vegetables, especially the fruits and vegetables. If there's a greater supply, it should impact the price, because you've got more to choose from. If it's scarce and rare, then of course that price is going to go up. So that's one of the reasons it's a value proposition to buy in season. You can do that at the grocery store. You can certainly do it at a farmer's markets. And that value proposition to you and me is it's helping us in our pocketbook. But there's contention that eating seasonally is good for our bodies too. Because for one thing, it's forcing you to eat a variety of different types of fruits and vegetables. And a lot of people believe, and I think they're even trying to do studies on this as well, that if you eat, especially with your fruits and vegetables in season, it's supposed to be very healthy. And it's forcing you to be very diverse in what you put on your plate.
That's true, and there's some nutrients that are not as stable as others. So if
Right.
if it's
You're right.
fresher,
Yeah.
you're going to get a more nutrient dense food.
And I didn't even put that point in it. Yes, you're usually eating at the peak of freshness if you're selecting fruits and vegetables in season.
Interesting. Well, so do you have a favorite crop or
So,
favorite
I
fall
know,
food?
I like it all, but I have to tell you, when I go to a farmer's market in the fall, there's just something. It's just like I breathe deep and I say, "This is so wonderful." And of course, we're coming out of our heat here in Arizona, so. But I love all the diversity in the leafy greens, our apples, pumpkins, and more. You think of family time in the fall too, and there's just something magical about it. All the root vegetables, and then fall is just my favorite. I think it is for a lot of us, especially here in Arizona, because we know we're getting cooler temperatures. So
Oh, that's nice. I love all the orange yellow
Yeah.
fall vegetables.
Yep.
They're great. They're
well,
amazing.
and to your point on that, think about color. Because of those colors, the oranges, the yellows, stuff, that can kind of remind you, okay, we're going into a new fruits and vegetable seasonality. So
talk a little bit more about the local produce market.
So there's a lot of neat things here, so I'm really going to lean on my notes because I don't want to leave anything out. But in Arizona, a state known for its diverse agricultural heritage and unique desert climate, the local food movement is thriving, and it's thriving through direct market farms, farmers markets, and community-supported agriculture, CSA programs. And you may be familiar with that, but if someone's not, a CSA is basically you kind of buy shares of that farmer's field in a sense. And I've rotated through a lot of our direct market farmers that offer CSAs because I've just wanted to experience the differences. And since it's only me at home, I usually only get half a share. But what would occur is once a week, I get a new basket. And the other thing with a community-supported agriculture and kind of prepaying and being committed to paying for that box that you get And sometimes it's delivered right to your doorstep. And sometimes there's pickup locations. So you just have to go. And again, you can go to fillyourplate.org and hunt for that. If you get wind of, you discover one of your favorite farmers at your farmer's market, ask them if they offer a CSA, and then you can sign up for it. And it's really very reasonable. It's not out of control in terms of pricing. But what happens is you're guaranteed that you're going to get seasonal fruits and vegetables. You're guaranteed that you're going to get them at the peak of freshness. So I would highly encourage for families to kind of experience that whole process. One of the latest CSAs that I was part of, I would go to the farmer's market to pick up my box, and that would be weekly. And it's kind of like a gift box, because, within a season, oftentimes you're going to get the same fruits and vegetables within a season. But it's fun as that season is shifting. You're going to see different things in the box, and it's really fun. And sometimes I would get a vegetable that I had never really cooked before or didn't know much about, but they're gracious to provide recipes, so we know how to use that recipe. So I would highly encourage. I've done it at least 3 or 4 times. I don't currently haven't currently bought into a CSA, but when I do, it's delightful. And like I told you, oftentimes I'm only buying half a share. I still have to share it. There's still so much produce. I still have to share it with my neighbors or my family. So the CSA boxes are really valuable.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It's kind of like mystery box, like
Right.
when you're a kid and you get a bag and you don't know what's going to be in it, and you just pick one, or when you don't know what's in a present and you pick it, and that would be fun. You get it monthly?
Actually weekly. Some of
Weekly.
them might be monthly, but the ones that I have participated in, they were weekly. So it's like Christmas every week.
Oh, that's amazing. And you said you can get information about that
Yeah.
on the Arizona Farm Bureau website.
The fillyourplate.org website.
Okay.
And if you go to farmers markets, or if you haven't, because that's usually where you can find out about them. And then most really good farmers markets have at least 2, if not 3 or 4 different farms. So ask them, say, do you offer a CSA basket or box, or can I buy into a guarantee, and do I pick it up here? I mean, they'll give you all the details and tell you how much it costs and all that stuff, and it's really a valuable experience.
Oh, that sounds like a great
Yeah.
resource, especially for a family
Right.
if they have 2 or 3 kids and
Yes.
and get something like that
And
every
definitely-
week. It's got to be economical too.
Right. It's very economical. And again, you're purchasing fruits and vegetables in season. The other thing I want to highlight, because a lot of times people are questioning how much truly local do we have in the state of Arizona? Well, just recently, as of April of this year, April 2025, the University of Arizona's Cooperative Extension, the economic team, I call them the A team, they've just completed a study on how much of Arizona's agriculture production stays in state. Or for me, because you and I work for state organizations, you work for the Arizona Milk Producers, I work for Arizona Farm Bureau. So our boundary for local, to me, is the state border. And I've always been curious about this. Well, they did the research on it, and they said in 2021, the total value of Arizona's agricultural production was nearly $4 billion, and that was in 2021, of which 37% were exported to foreign markets. Think of your cotton, think of some of your other major crops that might be heavily exported, with 82% of production, especially with cotton, was exported. So cotton is probably your top export crop here in Arizona. And again, we're talking mostly about the local market and fruits and vegetables, and obviously cotton doesn't fall in that, but that's kind of giving you an idea of, we do have one big crop that's mostly exported. But so what does that mean? The remaining 63% of the state's total agricultural production by value was either consumed in state or shipped domestically to other states. So like with your milk, dairy, you can relate to this. A lot of our fluid milk, or the milk, that gallon or quart of milk that somebody will buy, the majority of that is staying in state, but there's certainly a lot of your product that goes to other markets domestically. So the reason I bring that up is I think it's exciting to realize that the majority of our agriculture is really having a quote unquote statewide local impact, staying in state, or at least in the domestic market here in the United States. And most people don't realize that.
That's a really good point. I mean, because when you can buy local or when you have domestic product, it's going to be more reasonably priced,
Right.
because it's accessible, but
Yep.
you're also providing work for those directly working on the farms as well as those that are processing the
Right.
foods from there on out. So
Yep.
it's good all the way around.
Yep. So
So with fall, as far as things that are special about the fall season, what do you see as being special about crops and everything in the
Yeah.
fall?
you and I kind of land on the same experience and emotion about it. Is personally, I'm just excited about the cooler weather. So of course I'm going to be
A
excited.
little cooler, maybe not a lot cooler yet.
No, but
yeah.
it's getting there. The variety of produce in the fall is amazing. My farmers would probably correct me if I said it just feels like there's more produce. The variety of it, the fact that family fun is involved with it. A lot of our farms have fall festivals. We've become very familiar with Ashley Mortimer of Mortimer Farms, which is up north. You think of Schneff Farms down in Queen Creek. You've got Apple Annie's. Those are all farms you can visit to buy this fresh fall produce, but it also becomes a family experience. So that's why I think I'm in love with fall. It's the whole family experience.
That's a good point. It's a great way to teach children
Yeah.
where their food comes from.
Yep.
And some of the places where you can go and see that and where they have festivals and all kinds of other things, are those also listed on your website? Or-
Yes. It's one of the 4 searchable databases. There's a database called Visit a Farm, and it's our newest database. And it's pretty comprehensive. So and the website is mobile, so you literally could be in Cochise County or down southeast in the Wilcox area. Maybe you're going for a wine tasting event or something.
Or apples.
Or apples. You can go to the mobile version of it and search for farms to visit, and up will pop the farms that you can visit
Oh, good to
while you're
know.
there. But if I'm up north, and of course I've gotten so many of these types of farms that you can visit in my head because most of them are members, and I've gone and visited them, and we've interviewed them for the podcast and stuff like that. And it's not like we have a ton of farms like that, but we have enough to satisfy every Arizona family in the state of Arizona if they want to come. One statistic I like to share, if you go to Massachusetts, they have about 7,200 farms. The majority of their farms in that state, part of it is its density population and just how farming has shifted over the generations. The majority of their farms are direct market farms. So they probably have more farms that you can visit, that you can go on, and they have a farm stand and you can buy fresh seasonal produce, stuff like that. We have, from the last Census of Agriculture that's done by the USDA, we now have 17,000 farms here in
Wow.
the state of Arizona. The majority of those are small subsistence farms on the tribal lands. And they're growing a lot of produce, especially for themselves, their neighbors, or some of the ceremonial corn. So the number contrast is huge, and you'd think, oh, okay, so we have, no, we have a smaller circle of these direct market farms and ranches, but they're robust, they're amazing, they're impressive, and it's pretty exciting to go visit them.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't realize. I was wondering when you said that many,
Yeah.
17,000, exactly where they're located. It has
Oh, they're
to
all over.
primarily be
I think
rural.
something like 55% of them are on the tribal lands. And if they're subsistence, they're only raising crops either for themselves or their neighbors or for ceremonial purposes. Think of the Hopi and the Navajo, especially with the corn.
Oh,
Because
interesting,
it's
yeah.
part of their tradition. It's
Yes.
a beautiful tradition. So you're not necessarily going to have access, nor would you want to go way out on the tribal lands for that, especially if they're not going to sell it to you. But despite that contrast between Massachusetts nearly having all their farms that are direct market farms, we have the number is very limited of farms that you can actually visit. But we have enough to make every Arizona family happy if they go visit one.
Oh, that's great.
If I'm making sense.
That's great. That's great. And I have to say, you know, when you're talking about all these different foods and things in the fall, I have a burning question,
Okay. Uh-oh.
a practical question, at least for me, and I think for our listeners. Talk to us a little bit about how you choose your produce, your fall
Okay.
produce. I mean, you know, I've thumped it, I've smelled it, I've shook it, you know,
Right.
if it's a gourd or something. And sometimes I'm just not sure when something's ripe or when it's not. Or, you know, tell us a little bit about some of our fall fruits, vegetables and how you can choose them.
So I'm pulling these from all my own personal experiences and other people I've talked to, and just going to the markets enough to kind of have that experience. One is just to your point, practicality of it. Plan ahead, check the market hours and the locations in advance as they vary in season. What usually farmers markets will start at least an hour, if not 2 hours earlier in the summer because it gets lighter earlier. And we're trying to grab onto some cool weather, even though it's still warm and very early in the morning. in
We're
the
thinking
dead of
cool.
We're thinking cool. So, and then of course, because the sun rises a lot later in the late fall and winter, then they shift those hours. So you should always check. You should always plan ahead, especially if you're going to a farmer's market. And then use online directories, again, like Fill Your Plate. The Good Food Finder, Local First Arizona hosts that one. They also have a lot of information based on what they do. And then review vendor lists on the market sites. And why do I say that? Or even social media. This way you know what's available and you can plan your shopping list around what's available because it changes. I go to the grocery store more than I go to the farmer's market because I'm very confident of what they provide for us in the produce aisle and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you really get into the seasonal shopping and you're going to try to go as much, well, especially if you get a CSA box and you have to pick up your box at the farmer's market. So you're going to show up at the farmer's market probably weekly. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have everything you think you want necessarily. And because you're purchasing seasonally mm-hmm. and the farmers serving those farmers markets are providing seasonally, don't expect to find everything you think you want there. So there's going to be a shift. So you have to be prepared. And that's why it's kind of a good idea to see that farmer at the Phoenix market, by the way, or the Gilbert Farmers Market. What is that farmer that you've started really enjoying his produce? What's he going to start providing? And a lot of times on their social media sites.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's kind of good to check it out in advance. If you're not that much of a planner, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You're still going to have fun when you go to the farmer's market.
Well, that's what I was wondering, the difference between going to a grocery store versus a farmer's market, which one you should do in what cases?
So, and that's a good question. I mean, we have so many grocery stores here in Arizona. We're told that we have one of the most competitive grocery store markets in the nation. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm still trying to figure that one out and land on it. But because of that competitiveness, you know, they're really competitive with their pricing. They obviously want to provide a lot of variety. Their produce sections, the produce aisle is, as you yourself personally can say, is amazing. And they have started to cater, especially some grocery stores more than others, to some unique varieties of produce, you know, and they're committed to making sure that the local community that they serve. So I don't know if I have counsel on what's better or what's best. I think they're all good, and I do have a tendency to end up going to the grocery store more than I do the farmer's market, with the exception when I sign up for a CSA and I end up having to buy it at the farmer's market. I love farmer's markets, but they're, for me personally, kind of tough to go to in the summer because we get so busy. And if you're not forced to go there to pick up your box of vegetables that have already been pre-picked and selected for your box, and that I'm kind of into convenience and low maintenance. So that's one of the reasons why that kind of compels me to go to the farmer's market. But we have the safest food system. You and I have talked about this a lot. We have the safest food system in the nation. So whether I'm going to the grocery store or the farmer's market, I'm very confident about what I'm going to access and pick out. So,
Okay.
but
yeah.
another thing about the farmer's market that you don't necessarily have to worry about in the grocery store is you should shop early. You want to arrive early to get the best selection, especially if you don't have a CSA box, because the popular farmer vendors often sell out very quickly.
Oh, that's so they don't have a supply in the back, huh?
Yeah, and so the supply issues are a little bit more challenging when you go to the farmer's market. Early shopping also ensures fresher produce and shorter lines. And, you know, produce that maybe is the farmers that are really wise in this. One of my favorite farmers market farmers is Maya of Maya's Farm. I've always told her she should be an interior decorator if she quit farming, because she always just beautifies her display. And one thing about her and some of the other kind of high-end farmers market farmers, they always put their vegetables on ice. So they're keeping them fresh longer. But that's one of the things, the earlier you get, you feel like you're getting it fresher, and plus you're first in line, because sometimes the lines get really long if it's a very popular farmer's market. One of my favorite direct market farmers is Janet Anderson with, I think her farm is Pinnacle Peak Farmers Market. They can snag the fresh flowers from her because those go really fast.
That's nice.
Handmade soaps and seasonal specials before they're gone. And if you don't get there early, you're going to miss out on those things. In fact, one of my favorite stories that she tells, I know she'll let me tell it, Janet Anderson tells me, and it's one of the reasons she's not always at the farmer's market as much as she used to. She's pivoted a lot of her production to wholesale, where she ships it to kind of a food center, and then they distribute based on what their customers have purchased. But she said sometimes they were, before the market opened, talk about your early shoppers were pounding on her truck to say, "Where's your produce? Where's your produce?" And she literally had to say, "You got to let me put it out." So
What time do they generally open? This time of year,
I
in the
want to
fall.
say in the summer, some of them are open as early as 6. And in the fall/winter, it's easily an hour or two later
Okay.
because the days are shorter. So
Okay. So question. You said rhubarb is locally grown. Okay. So let's say I get my CSA box. I open it up, and surprise, there's rhubarb.
right,
And I've never cooked rhubarb.
neither I.
So
Mom has.
would we be
Rhubarb
able to
pie.
get recipes?
So that that
For
was
that? Yeah.
my point with the CSAs. Normally, if it's a product or a produce that you have never had any experience with, and they kind of know it, they'll provide a recipe. Plus, you can go on. Most of our farmers have websites. If they don't have websites, they have a social media account, whether that's Instagram or Facebook, and they can also.
Oh, perfect.
And plus, they can go to your site.
For many things. I don't know
Yeah.
if we have rhubarb, but
But recipes there, and then
Yes,
Fill Your Plate
Arizona
has recipes. So there's places for us to go, even if we pull out a vegetable from our
a mystery vegetable.
a mystery vegetable, and we don't quite know what to do. And of course, you're naturally, by default, because our direct market farmers do farm seasonally, you're going to have a higher chance of purchasing in season if you go to the farmers markets. Ask vendors about their seasonal specials or bulk discounts sometimes. You can maximize on your pricing there. And then I always say one of the other tips I like to give people is engage with the farmers. They're all, if they're overwhelmed and busy, but they usually have staff, but they're delightful to talk to, especially if you catch them early at a farmer's market. Some of them are so popular that even literally when it officially says that it's not like at a farmer's market you open the doors unless it's an indoor farmer's market, but literally as the clock hits 7 o'clock and that's when the farmer's market starts. I mean, people are already lined up if they're really popular. So,
well, and I think one of the things about like a farmer's market is you probably get some different fruits and vegetables and things that you normally wouldn't. And I know when my kids were little, it takes about 8 to 10 times to develop a taste for a new food.
Oh, really?
And we would go, and every time I would pick out some kind of unusual food they've never had before. So it might have been broccolini that they hadn't tried, or it might be as simple as yellow carrots instead of orange carrots, and just exposing kids to so many different tastes and flavors and colors is a good thing because it helps to really expand their taste preference.
I'm glad you said that because the other things that I'll give props to farmers markets about is that you may discover a vegetable that you never even heard of, let alone tried, because they're growing such a diverse array of the seasonal fruits and vegetables. And they experiment. I've got one farmer that the majority of his produce goes to the chefs at some of our high-end restaurants here in the Valley, but he also serves more than one farmer's market. And so some of those unique vegetables the chef has asked them to grow, he'll bring with him to the farmer's market. Edible flowers. I mean, who'da thunk? A farmer's market can expand your vision for what you might want to do in the kitchen, especially if you're kind of a culinary artist within your own home. And sometimes it's fun to just discover something that you may not have paid attention before. And to that point, we also have quite a few mushroom farms here in Arizona. I hunted high and low, actually did an AI search.
Mushrooms, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I did an AI search, and up came about 17. I ended up reporting on 16 of them because I went to every site, checked them out, confirmed that they actually were a mushroom farm. Many of them didn't exclusively grow just mushrooms. They had other produce. But think about that. If you're a culinary artist in your own home, if you go to the right farmer's market to find some of these mushroom farmers, you can buy some fresh and unique and different types of mushrooms that are edible.
Oh.
That are edible.
That are edible. Okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So I guess to kind of summarize some of that, what do you think is the most unique or most special about like the fall winter season of growing in Arizona?
Because we're Arizona and we're planting and harvesting every month out of the year, and basic 300. We have our cloudy, overcast days, but at least 360 plus days of being able to grow, and the unique variety. One of the things that I've learned from some of my direct market farmers that will produce a lot is they're even really creative in what they try to grow, and they're just gifted. I was talking to one of the direct market farmers, Farmer Frank, and when I showed up, because I was interviewing him for Talk to a Farmer Friday, and he's leafing through this seed catalog, and I go, I knew what he was doing, but I said, talk to me about that, and he goes, I just want to look for something I haven't grown yet. I mean, who thinks of that? And plus, it just proves the point that he can grow just about anything. And that's not unusual. So it's the variety, it's the breadth and depth of our agriculture and what our direct market and our local market in agriculture can do. I think of Mortimer Farms up north or Marana Pumpkin Patch just outside of Tucson now, Marana Pumpkin Patch. They grow mainly pumpkins, but they're just Marana Pumpkin Patch, and in its microclimate, it's a little bit harder, so he can only grow about 10 to 15 different varieties of pumpkins, but think about that.
That's a lot of varieties
10
of pumpkins.
Yes. Mortimer's can grow about 40 because their climate is a
Wow.
little cooler, 35 to 40. Again, that whole diversity of agriculture, and we're talking pumpkins, we might not, but I mean, you can,
I had no idea there were that many types of pumpkins.
I didn't either until I started asking about it. But Schneff Farms in Queen Creek and Apple Annie's in Wilcox, they're all just experimenting, and they're willing to assess what they can do to bring something new to the consumer. Somebody new that's coming to the farm maybe for the first time. Well, guess what? We can grow this variety of chilies, or we can grow this variety of apples. Our apple and peaches here, the Schneff Farms actually has the earliest season peaches in the nation.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I can't remember exactly, like, we all think of Georgia peaches, but Schneff Farms was way ahead of them in terms of production. And some of it is just the variety and the fact that our climate is so amazing here in the valley.
That is amazing.
I think that's what makes me feel like our fall and winter vegetables are so special, and our direct market farms here in Arizona are so special because we can do so much with this climate, especially in the fall and the winter.
That's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And you know, talking about some of the farmers, I know a couple weeks ago we had Zippy Duvall on, and
Yes.
he was discussing the average age of farmer,
Yes.
and I believe he said 55 was the average age of a farmer.
That's something like 58.
58?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, but do you know what the average age is in Arizona? And
We're a
what-
little higher. We're 60 and 61.
Are we really?
Yeah.
What is your take on how do we get more individuals involved in farming or interested in farming, younger individuals?
Right, to be
carry
doing
on,
those
yeah.
things. Yeah, to be doing these things, because especially in the direct market area, or another term that's used is retail farmer. They're the produce they raise, that they farm, they're going to sell it directly to you and I, to the public. Well, he's spot on about the issue, and obviously as a president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, he's concerned about it, so that's why he's talking about it, and I was so appreciative that he did. But he and other state farm bureaus, ourselves included, we're working to try to bring awareness and support to our beginner farmers and also the next generation if they want to do something different with the farm. So some of the things that might be happening is a son or daughter comes to the father and says, I do want to farm, but I don't know if I want to do exactly what you do. Can I have, can I partner with you in maybe taking a quarter of acre or whatever and start doing some of this direct market? There's a veterans program, a national veterans program, helping veterans that want to get into farming, and American Farm Bureau has partnered with them. So that's some of the things that they're doing to try to, bring this age gap down, because even in farm families, the Murphys are a testimony to that. It makes me sad that I even have to say this, but Dad had 3 boys and me. So there's 4 of us, and not one of us wanted to take on the farm. And he set us down at an early age and said, we've got to start thinking about this. If one of you or 2 of you want to follow in my footsteps with the farming. But then in the next breath, he said, but farming is so hard. If you don't want to farm, you should find what you love and find what you think you can do. And in the same breath, he was almost talking us out of it. So that, unfortunately, there's a lot of families that have that same story. Now, one fun thing I will tell you, I'll go back to the Mortimers, because we reference them a lot when it relates to direct market. So they have, I think, 4 kids as well, 2 boys and 2 girls. And nearly all of them are working on their farm. And Ashley, little Ashley, that we've already had on this podcast twice, they just named her CEO of the Mortimer Farms component of. Now they're
good for her.
Yeah, their ag is very diverse. They have ranching. They have a nursery, Mortimer's Nursery. I think they have an AI business, not as in artificial intelligence, but artificial insemination. I think they have a compost business. So she's been named the CEO because I can just see Gary Mortimer, the dad, saying, "Kid, you got to worry about all this on the Mortimer Farm side of the business." And they're trying to make it work for their kids. And so that's an example of a family that's inspired the next generation to continue to farm. And that's not easy to do. So the older generation has to, I think one of the tips and one of the insights to this is the older generation has to work at being creative or being open to what that kid might want to do. Dad didn't talk us out of it. He wasn't necessarily our cheerleader, and none of us thought we want to work as hard as we've been working with Dad on the farm. So I'm not saying anything negative about how it was approached in the Murphy family, but obviously for us, we weren't necessarily thinking outside of the box. So, and I feel families like the Holcombs of the Annie Apples, because I think both kids on that farm are farming. The Mortimers must have been a little bit more creative about thinking outside of the box if the next generation wants to farm. You know, I can't speak to some of the other farms, but there is the next generation. One other program I'll mention that I do think helps this and inspires it is one of the other Farm Bureau programs that we have. And we actually talked about it, you know, we're talking about Zippy's commentary and question as it related to an aging farmer. One of the programs that the Farm Bureau family has is their Young Farmer and Rancher programs. And that whole program, while much of it is designed to build leadership skill sets in our young and up-and-coming farmers so that they will be the next generation of volunteer leaders in the Farm Bureau family, it's also inspiring them to look for ways to make a way for their own agriculture endeavors or agriculture aspirations. And sometimes they're providing insights on business management and, you know, and the university, our land-grant university, the University of Arizona provides some of that. Extension tries to help with that. Extension more and more, especially in Maricopa County, is really ramping up skill set training for those that want to become beginner farmers. They have a whole program on that now. So there's ways that we're trying to draw other people into agriculture.
So those that are not currently in agriculture can go those routes
Right.
as well. Okay.
Right.
As well as those that are in agriculture and learn more business skills to go along with
Exactly.
the ag side. Okay, that's good to know.
Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of young people that are saying, you know, I don't want the rat race of urban life. I want to try to. The only heads up that I would give anybody that's listening to them is that it's a lot of hard labor. And you have to have available land. You have to have available water. Don't invest in land if it doesn't have water. It just won't do anything for you. And there's also labor issues. One of the biggest things that's always going to be the bane of a farmer's existence is having enough labor to harvest those crops, to plant those crops, to harvest them, and to send them to market, especially if they're direct market farmers. So they have to be prepared. But some of the courses like Maricopa County Extension provides for some of these up-and-comer, quote-unquote, beginner farmers, somebody that's never been, they might be a first generation, they're trying to hop into it. They have courses on this to help them.
That's great. A lot of resources then out
Right.
there. Cooperative Extension, through
Yep.
the land-grant universities, Young Farmer and Rancher groups. Good. That's good to hear. We've got to bring some new people in,
I
too.
know. It's gets a little scary, but it's amazing that, you know, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 90+% of the American population was agrarian, and now it's completely reversed. Maybe there was a point when it was 5%, then 4%, then 3%. You know, ways used to say less than 2%. Well, now they contend that statistic is probably less than 1%. So despite all that, because of efficiencies, technology improvements, we're growing more on an acre or what would be quantified as a football field size. We're growing more on 1 acre than we've ever done before. So despite the reduction in land, the reduction in farmers, we're more productive than ever before. You can speak to that in the dairy industry
True.
all day.
Technology
Yep.
has really
Right.
created big advances, leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
And so we've covered a lot of territory.
We have.
From the fall produce to
Yep.
the farmer. What are the big takeaways you'd like our listeners to hear?
So I have 3. Remember the produce diversity in fall, and it may end up being your favorite season as well. And that diversity that you especially find at a farmer's market, but also a produce aisle in the grocery store. Those farm stands, and in so many places, there's just an abundance. Fall is harvest time anyway. So, and then number 2, plan ahead when you're shopping. When you get there, get there early, talk to the farmers if they have time. There might be a moment when you can visit with them, especially the smaller farmers markets. And then celebrate the fall, and especially family fun time on farms that you can visit.
It's creating memories and just really exposing children to so many different types of foods and agriculture. And I think that's a great tip. Great tip. I always learn so much from you when we start delving into the agriculture side of things. So
Well,
great job.
I can always say the same to you when it comes to nutrition. I think we're a force to be reckoned with, Tammy.
And I am ready for fall food. I want to
Yes.
go check out some of those recipes. Thanks so much for doing this, Julie.
Thank you, Tammy.